Could you pace without watch? Could you not look at your watch and just run on?
No, I probably will start far too fast.
I ran a 10K a couple of months and it was wonderful. I basically didn't look at my watch for the whole 13 miles.
That's so nice.
It was probably about a pack of 10 of us and we were like locked in.
I've never done a 10K before. I should have been fit enough to do it. I find there's 2 paces.
Okay.
For the sub 40 minutes. I tag onto them and we start a little bit fast, but then I start noticing on my watch like 1 or 2 of the splits, we seem to be dropping off. So I just went to the other pacer and then we were kind of back on track about 7 or 8 kilometers and I'd stop looking at my watch. I allow the pace thing to say in my ear, instead of doing like 3:55 or 3:50, it said 4:3 or 4:5. And I was like, oh, this guy is bloody slowed down just as the race is getting to the worst part of it. Hi everybody, welcome back to Two Average Runners. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hi, everyone.
I had a little bit of an idea of a slightly different way of kicking off this week.
Okay,
So we always say hi, or in South Africa we say how's it, which I still have to stop myself from saying.
Okay.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, let's hear how your week was in terms of your training and then also in life in general. And that can be personal work. So instead of how have you been, let's hear on a 1 to 10 scale.
I think this past week for training has been like a 9. So
Okay, cool.
Really just executed, like did what I needed to do. No real drama, just solid work. And then life, I think 8. Like things are pretty good.
Brilliant.
I got a little bit of downtime over the weekend. My wife and son went away to Houston for the weekend to a birthday party and to stay with her mom. And I got some free time and I didn't know what to do with myself. So that was mine. How about you? How was your week scored?
1 to 10 for training, I'm going to say 9 because it went really well, even though I'm very tired. But I've had like major confidence boost moments, so that was great. Maybe even a 10. 1 to 10 on life, maybe a bit lower, maybe more like a 5 or 6. But I also did have a Saturday night home alone, which was amazing. I was so excited. Somebody actually invited me to go out for dinner. I said, no, this is the one shot I have to have the house to myself. I'm going back home and I'm going to enjoy it. So there we got something.
So for our listeners, there might be 3 now. Who knows how many people are actually listening?
Hopefully.
What does at home for Alice look like?
It looks like getting into my pajamas, sitting on my sofa, putting on a nice TV, finding something to watch, something nice and warm to drink. Monty, my golden retriever dog, is allowed on the sofa in the such moments and he can cuddle with me. And that's it. And then bed early if I can. And try not to scroll too much on social media. That sort of guilty pleasure that I sometimes have.
That sounds
maybe a game or 2 of Wordle,
delightful.
catch up on the Wordle and connections.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those sort of fun things. Real rock and roll. And you, what did you do with yourself in these 2 days? I mean, that's something else. You must have been wondering what to do with yourself.
I mean, I got to train. And I got to start not as early. And so I got to go somewhere that doesn't open till 7 because I knew I wanted to get like a good 3-hour run in. And normally I would just start way before to be home with the family. And so I did that. But then I saw 2 movies over the weekend.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the movie theater.
What did you see?
I don't think the first one I saw, Scream 7. It was pretty average, but it was quite enjoyable. It was just that one I wasn't really thinking. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to the movies, and I picked one I knew I could get something somewhat healthy, so I could have lunch at the same time. It was lunchtime,
so
I could eat there, and it would be somewhat healthy, like not too junky. But I was like, I was going to go and have to eat somewhere anyway, so I did that, and that was pleasant enough. I liked the OG Scream movie, but I kind of felt like I didn't really do the movie experience because I kind of didn't turn my phone fully off, and I hadn't picked a movie I was really into. So the next day I was already thinking ahead, and I'd actually listened to a podcast by the Roaches. We were big fans of David and Megan Roach, and they mentioned this movie Project Hail Mary, and it's written by Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. Do you ever see The Martian?
Yes, I did. Is that the one with Matt Damon? Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah. Oh,
and
is this the Ryan Gosling movie?
This is the Ryan Gosling movie.
Okay, cool.
And so that was actually one thing I wanted to talk about. We don't have to, maybe we dive into it now, maybe later, but like just from the as we're reflecting on the week, the experience, I went there. I'd already had some breakfast. It's hot here in Texas right now. So I wanted to be a little cool in AC. And I just went there and I turned my phone off completely. And for 2.5 hours, I went to IMAX and I sat not super close, but like pretty close. So it was like straight up there, like right in front of me. And I was like, I just immersed myself in a way that, like you said, there was no scrolling, there was no checking anything, there was no beeps or no notifications, there were no toddler distractions or dog distractions or wife distractions or any distractions. So yeah, that was
And it was good.
that was
Good movie.
yeah, it was good. It was excellent. So it was maybe something we can come back to a little bit later.
Okay, cool.
Because I think I was reflecting then how some lessons, not that everything has to be a lesson, but like some things really popped to me about like the stuff that you and I do. And I think it might make a bit more sense after we've maybe talked a bit more about, I think our main topic this week is to talk, to share a little bit about we're each training for an adventure and a goal, or we have something that we're sort of excited about in the short or near term. And we thought it might be a good idea to sort of share both for each other, but then for anyone who's listening to sort of learn a bit about us through what we're working towards. But maybe we'll circle if we have some time. We'll come back to
it. Yeah, because I also watched a movie this week that gave me some pause for thought. So let's come back to it.
Ooh, I like that. That could be a good one. It's like taking some lesson from that one. So, anything else for you for your?
Not really. I think my main focus at the moment is really training. I'm also, for the interest in the listeners, I'm a stepmom and I've got teenagers and they're all busy writing exams. So I'm busy in a house trying to sort of get people to glue themselves to their seats at their desks. So it's, it's a little bit of a military operation, should I say, but no, nothing else major to report. But what is it that you're working towards, Hugh, at the moment?
Yeah,
I actually wasn't even sure.
Yeah, exactly. You and I, we each have something on at any point in time, but then we often complete it or do it. Time passes, we set a new goal. I think there's two parts for mine. As you know, and as many others may know, like we are planning our move back to the UK. And as part of that, we'd be living in rural Wales, living in the Brecon Beacons and the Black Mountains. So that's quite appealing to be back there in those sort of mountains and hills, being able to trail run a lot more for like daily training, not just like try to find trails on a weekend. Or even here in Texas, we have a handful of trails, but it's not quite, when they're not mountains. And the thing that's caught me, like I've done a lot of races, particularly sort of some of these, I've done marathons, I've done 100-mile races, and I'm sort of captured right now this idea. It's in the US you might call it an FKT, or a fastest known time, but that doesn't
never heard of that before. FKT.
Yeah, FKT,
okay, cool.
Fastest known time, and that's often like the fastest known time someone has done a thing. So like I think like someone might run the Appalachian Trail, that might be like a many days and like months project, or someone might do a particular loop around Mount Rainier or somewhere like that where there's a trail or a loop and they want to do it in a particular time. But what I found is that there's this tradition in the UK. They don't use the word FKT. They just call it a record. Okay, but there's this idea of a round. And a round, was first like the classic one is one. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's called the Bob Graham Round. And it's in the Lake District. And it was this guy, Bob Graham. I don't know all the history exactly, but the idea was it was like how many peaks he could link up in 24 hours. And he sort of linked up this loop and that became a round. And then over the years, people have done it. And now there are sort of several hundreds of people, not maybe thousands, but certainly hundreds of people who've done this round. And it often looks something like 60 to 70 miles, but often like 25 to 30,000 feet of vertical. Wow. In that. And often it's not always on trail, it's fell running. Sometimes it's running up to a peak and down to the next peak and down into the valley and cross the road, and you might get the support.
Quite a bit of navigating.
Yeah, so a bit of navigating. Yeah. And then there are different sort of styles. You can do it supported. The Bob Graham is famous. If you're going for an under 24 hours, or particularly if you're one of the crazy people, not two average runners like us, right, who are going for, say, like trying to go for one of the fastest times doing that round, you might have supporters. You might have some people who would run with you, and maybe they know the route better, and they're handing you off to someone else. And maybe they're
down.
So you're not slowed down. Maybe maybe they're carrying some extra water for you or some food, like, so that you can just try to move as quickly. But then there are other different classes where someone might do it like unsupported. So like they're going to have no help and they're just going to drink water from streams and carry all their food or, like there are different versions, but like be sort of more. And for some reason, this is sort of captured my imagination because I've done a bunch of races that are kind of pointless, right? And often it's like I've run races where you run 5 loops of something or like circles, or sometimes you run out and then you run back. And often with these rounds, there's something aesthetic about it. It's kind of like often a big loop. It's not perfectly circular and it's hitting often all the high points in a particular area. So I'm not so moved about the Bob Graham in the Lake District, but there's one in North Wales in Snowdonia called the Paddy Buckley Round. And it's known as a bit harder because it's a lot more vert. I think it's about 65, 66 miles. I think 28,000 feet of vert. And it's
the
pretty
weather
tough,
might be worse there as well.
The weather could be worse. Yeah, you could get very changeable weather. You could get very foggy. I think in Wales and in the UK, you might call it clag, is when the fog comes in and sort of like you just can't see anything then. So there's the navigation. But there's something about it that's, what I love about these adventures is that it's a way to test ourselves. And in races, I love to race. I'm not winning any races. You love to race, and we're going to hear a bit about your adventure. We're not winning races. And I find that sometimes I can still get caught up with sort of other people or the sort of, the sort of competition or the fact that it's something related to that event. And again, that event is on a particular day and you have to get into the race and there are might be only so many spots or there might be lots of runners. And for me, just this idea that if I go to this Paddy Buckley Round, it's going to be really hard. So I'm going to have to train for it. But I can sort of pick a, I'm going to try to do it in August. Maybe this one, August 2027, because I think it's a big project to work towards. But maybe I'll try to pencil a few weekends and then pick the one with the best weather. Right.
Yeah.
And then and maybe it will be more of an adventure of me against me. It's like there's no one else there. There's no one else racing. And so that's what's captured my mind right now.
Will you not find it tough that there's not a fixed date? Because, like right now, we'll talk in a moment about what I'm working on, but I've got 4 weeks to go to my thing.
Yes.
And if I could, I'd maybe like to push it out a few weekends. Maybe I just need a few more weeks. So I'm just wondering if that would be tough, not having it as a fixed event in the calendar.
I think it would. I think it's double-edged, sort of, right? Because I think there's an element of it, but there's an element sometimes of the pressure with races where you're working towards something and you're not quite ready, or you do get sick just before and it's like the race is gone, or you do it, or you muscle through anyway and have a rough race or don't finish or don't start. So I can totally see it. And it's like different points at different, periods of time. So that's what's captured my mind. And also this idea that I've run a lot in the Brecon Beacons and the Black Mountains. I've not run in Snowdonia. So I want to take it as a bit of a project, go and do some weekend trips there, maybe with the family, maybe on my own, maybe with you as well. Like we'll go and do and then those weekends, there's a British phrase, which the Americans don't really know, called recce. I think it's a shorthand for reconnaissance. So you go do a recce.
It's like
so
an army term, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like an army term. Exactly, I think. And so go and do a long weekend, maybe run a few sections of the course and maybe do a couple of trips, like learn the navigation, do it with, with the map. Maybe have a backup GPS in case, but really try to learn the terrain and the route and get and experience it. Because sometimes it can be quite boggy. A lot of Wales can have these bogs that your feet get stuck in the mud. And so just get to sort of experience it and have a bit of a sort of a project that's sort of less less a race context. And then the final thing I'll say about that, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts, is that, we're chatting, and we're not doing this as a sort of, this isn't a news program, but we read the news, right, related to, and the news in our sport, there is a very famous, Ultra Trail Mont Blanc is sort of the big corporate entity in the sport of trail and ultra running. And they have the big race around Mont Blanc and all the races related to it. And then they've been buying up all these other races and creating a bit of a pyramid scheme. So you have to run their other races to get stones in order to enter the big race. And it seems like UTMB just makes more money all throughout. But they have this iconic race around Mont Blanc that everyone wants to do, and it's kind of the world champs of
Yeah.
racing for the pros. But also there's something, and so they bought this race. There was a famous race that had been going for maybe a decade called Ultra Trail Snowdonia, which did, it's not as much, doesn't do all the peaks of, let's say, the Paddy Buckley, but has a route that does Snowdon and a lot of the famous sort of peaks or ridges in Snowdonia. Anyway, they got bought by UTMB a few years ago, and I guess they started to add to the numbers. And then this past year, they basically were sold out for their 100K. And then a couple of weeks ago, then they announced, hey, we're opening up small spots in the 100K and we're introducing an 80K race. And everyone jumped at it and sold it. And then like 48 hours later, they released the course for the 100K, and it doesn't have Snowdon. They changed the course. Like they cut a third of the vertical because it's known as this epic race. And anyway, so I wasn't signed up for it. I had thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. But, for me with the move back, I don't know if we'll be back in May. So I was like, oh, hey, this year, certainly not. And it's nice as a part of an idea, you could learn some of Snowdonia and some of these big peaks. But that's was the final straw with me, which is almost like, screw those guys, screw these big companies as well.
I'm doing my own thing.
I'm going to do my own thing, because when you run that race, you're maybe running with 600 other people, which can be great and it could be great community. But then there's that little bit of kind of want to go out with me against the mountain. So that's maybe that's my latest midlife crisis. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm working on. Yeah.
I love the sound of it. I'll definitely come and do some of the recce's with you. I don't know if I'll do the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'd love to do a recce. I've lived in the UK on and off for 18 years, but I've always used to. I haven't done so much in the last few years. Loads of hiking, and I love Wales. Brecon Beacon's cool.
Yep.
It's probably the first place I went hiking in the UK, and I think there's lots of army training around there, so you see the guys, and that's always quite inspiring. You're like, okay, cool, here they are doing their thing, and you're out, and it's always raining, and there's lots of sheep, and your map's disintegrating in the rain, and you're trying to figure out where you're going. And then also been to Snowdon quite a bit.
Yes.
One time that I did Snowdon, we did quite a tricky route. I can't remember what you call it, but you go up this very steep bit where you're almost like on a pitch of a roof. I don't know how to describe it, but I basically nearly thought I was going to blow off, and I was terrified.
Yes.
But Snowdon itself is fine, but it was just kind of the way that we did it. Freezing cold, but amazing. And then also go to Scotland quite a bit to do some hiking. But I love Wales.
You did what I think is called Crib Goch.
Yes, that's the one. I just didn't want to have a go at saying it.
That is known as
I felt like we needed ropes.
That's actually not in the Paddy Buckley, because I guess I was reading about it. Apparently, it was originally when Paddy Buckley. And the irony is Paddy Buckley created the round, having been inspired by Bob Graham, but I don't think he wasn't the first to finish it. He might never have finished it, but he created it. And it was actually a lady, Wendy Dodds, I think, was the first person to finish the Paddy Buckley round in the 80s, which is kind of cool. But yes, I heard that originally they wanted that Crib Goch ridgeline in there, but it's terrifying for people that they're like, look, this doesn't make sense for this kind of fast moving round.
No, there's no fast moving there.
I'm impressed, Alice, for a road runner. You've done some pretty gnarly.
And also I grew up in Cape Town, so we've got a mountain on the doorsteps, and I grew up doing lots of hiking. I think we mentioned it last time, but I've also had some very close calls hiking with my current partner, because back in the day I was hiking in the UK. I was with my now ex-husband. And he said he remembers sort of watching me above him, sort of looking like I was going to blow off in the gale force wind. But I've had some hairy experiences with Dale as well, where we've got lost and found ourselves in areas where we've come back later and seen in the hiking book that it said you need ropes, so you find yourself on a ledge crying, I want to go home.
Yes.
So I'm quite brave, but to a point. But I've never done any of those big trail events, but I've done a lot of sort of trail running in general, just on weekends in South Africa.
Yes.
But I don't know if I want to get into trail running, but I would love to try and do a really long event. The other thing that appeals to me is not what I'm working on now, is when you were talking about these records, is something that might be more of a multi-day event.
Yes.
Or I see people, I always get quite inspired when I see somebody ran around the UK, or there's a guy who's going across Greece at the moment, or something like that. Sometimes I think that could be quite cool in the future.
Absolutely. Well, one of my crazy ideas one time is like, so there is the Wales Coast Path. This is a coast path all
Oh,
around
yeah.
Wales. And I've hiked sections of it before, and you just stay in a bed and breakfast each night and just hike a section
Yeah,
and
it's
keep going.
beautiful.
I think the whole of that Wales Coast Path is like something like 880 miles.
Yeah.
So people do know, have known to don't do that, like, nonstop. And then I heard something, I think now I think they're calling it the King's Path or something. I think there is now a path around the whole of the UK. So England and
Okay, wow.
Scotland.
Because they've
I
got
don't know
that
if,
same kind of path in Cornwall,
yes, because
Devon, and I don't know
The
about the rest.
Southwest
And it's
Coast Path in
amazing. It's
Cornwall
really
is very
stunning. Yeah.
famous, and there's a famous FKT on that Southwest Coast Path, by a guy called Damien Hall. Well, he had it at one point. I just read his book, really good book, For the Long Run, I think is what it's called. But anyway, yeah, I've heard that one, like, around the UK, and so that's one that I heard someone say, because it's a new path, it's actually, there isn't a record yet. So if
Good.
you could be the first, not that it's really going to be you and I on this one, but again, if you could be the first one to get
To do
out there
it.
and actually like do that, but I think that's
Yeah.
like, multi-month adventure, then
Yeah,
you
that
could
is a
technically,
multi-month.
you could get the, but that's cool. So anyway, so that's
Yeah.
sort of the thing that I'm working through. That's sort of what's inspiring me, but in the spirit of low key, as a stepping stone towards that, I ran a race in the Brecon Beacons called the Beacons Way 100 a couple of years ago. And it's a point to point. It follows the Beacons Way, which is an actual trail from one end to the east end of the Brecon Beacons, or Banau Brycheiniog, as it's officially known now by the Welsh name, National Park, from the east to the west. The whole path is about 94 miles, and so for the race they tack on the 2 times, one at the beginning of the end, which makes it 100. And so that's in July. So I haven't signed up for it yet, but that's the one that I'm like tempted to put on as something to work towards, like
Yeah.
you said, with a date that also, it's like when we move to the UK in the next couple of months, I don't want to be like, oh, now we got to go to Scotland or the Lake District, or
Yeah. Isn't that one the one that goes near your hometown? Is
yes,
that the one?
it goes
So
through my
your
mum's
family can come
village.
and wave at you. There you go.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's also, it's like I could sleep in my own bed the night before.
Nice.
The
What a dream.
family, and the nature of that event is they have really good aid stations and a couple of checkpoints where you can do drop bags. So last time I did it, like, I didn't have a crew, so to speak, but so my parents and my sister and nephew, this is before my son, obviously, but like they could come in and cheer me on at a couple of places, but they had no job. They didn't have to carry any stuff or know that they had to get me particular
They could bring you
food or
some Welsh
drink.
cakes.
They did bring me Welsh cakes, actually. They did bring me Welsh cakes, but it was like bonus. It was like bonus. And they were obviously there at the finish. But so I'm kind of excited to go back and do that race. There's a lot
Cool.
of self-navigation. It's one of those trails where you'll see the little circles on posts that say the Beacons Way, but there's no like pink flags. And sometimes you'll cross an open moor and you have to sort of, know the routes. You have a map. You can have a GPS file, to be fair. But anyway, so that's in the similar spirit. That is a race, but again, it's in the similar sort of vein, and sort of is like, laddering up to the sort of bigger plan. So that's
No
my
lead
big
goal for you
adventures
this
right
year.
now. What about you, Alice? What are you working? What are you cooking up?
What am I cooking up? I ran Berlin last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in September, and I was supposed to run Valencia in December. I had first thought I'm going to try and get a sub 3 at Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
Dismal failure. So 15 kilometers in, I was just tired. I don't know what happened. It was very hot. It was 28 degrees, but I had no energy, no power, and I basically ground to a halt. So I didn't get the best time. 3:18, so way off. And then
So
I was
I'm
supposed to do
gonna
Valencia. Yeah,
I'm going
dive
to
in.
interrupt you for a second because it's really fascinating. I hear you there. I know you have these ambitious goals. And for anyone listening here, like 3:18 is a cracking marathon, right? It
I
is
felt
like
like
an
I was
amazing.
walking.
Well, maybe you were walking because you were cooking at the beginning, and then the heat cooked you, and then you walked. But that's an incredible marathon time. It's faster than my PR marathon time by about 4 plus minutes, and probably and that was a long time ago when I really cooked up that PR. Why? What is it about? Like, what is it about the 3 hours? Like, why is that such a
Yeah, so I was going to come
mysterious
into
or
that.
alluring thing for you?
I think, while you're talking about why it appeals to not do a race, I'm very
Yes.
much in the let's do a race. Okay.
Yeah.
So I haven't won any races, but I have come second twice in
Excellent.
this old age that I'm in. in sort of local races. So, and that's actually quite fun. So I can
Mm.
see I'm not going to win because the person ahead of me is pretty much got home by the time I'm coming in. But it's been quite fun being sort of second lady in and a lot older than everybody else.
Yeah.
So I have quite a competitive spirit. And I think it's because I didn't run and really test myself out. I've often run and always run and exercise a lot, but I've never really tested myself. So my first marathon, I did like a 3:12. I didn't feel like I'd even tried that hard. I was more just like, I've never run one of these. Let's try it. So then I just assumed, well, I'll just go to 3
Yes.
from there. But the next one I didn't finish because I was throwing up. Berlin
Yes.
went to 3:18. And then I wanted to, okay, I'm going to have another shot because I'm feeling really fit. I'm going to go to Valencia. And Valencia is supposed to be
Yes.
really fast. I've already run it before, so I know what way lies ahead. But I'd been having pain in my leg from before Berlin, and turned out that I had 2 stress fractures, one in each leg. So I
Yeah.
probably had a stress fracture at Berlin. So I had to pull out of Valencia. So I just feel like I've got a little bit of unfinished business now.
Yeah.
I had signed up to do an ultra marathon in Cape Town this April, but because I only really got back to running again end of January, everybody said, no, you can't. It's a
And
very
that was
steep
that's a
race.
road ultra, right? The road ultra
Road
as well.
ultra.
Yeah. 2 Oceans. Is that
Yeah,
right?
2 Oceans. And also that's my hometown. So
Yes.
for me to go and fly home, and because I'm a bit competitive, I've got a cousin who used to be like an elite marathon runner. My sister's pretty good. Everyone I know, lots of people run it. It's like I don't really want to go and just jog around.
Yeah.
I would quite like to get at least as close to my cousin as I can, and maybe be faster than my sister. And hopefully they will never listen to this and know that but we all know there's a bit of competition there.
Yes.
So the rate of refracture after these stress fractures is apparently very high. So the physio and the sports physician said to me, you cannot start training with the intensity of where you were at. You literally need to just do easy runs. So I've been a very slow build. However, I have got London
Yes.
coming up. The physio and the sports physician said, listen, if you can get round London, brilliant. Goal achieved. And the back
Okay.
of your mind, you're nodding, but you're thinking, in what time? And they keep telling you, don't go for a time. But because my training has suddenly in the last few weeks clicked and my fitness is back, I'm in that kind of mode where I'm like, I wonder if the stars align, if I can keep all my gels down, if the temperature's not too hot, if they're not too many, if I execute it, I wonder if I'll go sub 3 at this one. But the truth is I actually just want to run a solid race because later in the year, I'm going to go to Chicago and Valencia. I've got places to either of those. So I guess, yes, my goal is to go sub 3. I think it's just proving it to myself that I can. But then I have already thought to myself, like, what happens if and when you do it? Like, I have a friend that I met at a local race.
Yes.
And we've sort of become Strava mates. And he, I think, is about the same age as me. He might be a bit older. And he's just got a sub 3 at Tokyo. And I'd love to know from him, like, what are you going to do now? Because he's got like 4 marathons coming up this year. Like, you've cracked it. You finally got your sub 3. Like, now what? So it's just, I do wonder what it'll be like if and when I do it.
So that's the plan for this year. So you've got obviously Chicago. Is that what you said? Chicago, and
then I'm in again for Valencia. And then next year, I really want to run 2 Oceans.
Yeah.
The South African one.
How long is 2 Oceans?
It's not too bad. It's 56 kilometers. So it's only another, 14, 15 Ks. But I think they say the race starts at about the marathon point because you go into the world's worst hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just like several kilometers of the worst incline ever. And then you get to the top and then it's rolling hills, a downhill and an uphill to finish. And the camber of the road is quite steep. So apparently your legs are absolutely wrecked. I've read some of the race reports. There's an ultra runner there called Gerda or Gerda Steyn. Apparently she got into running a bit later in life, but she's one of South Africa's top runners, but very good on the ultra distance. Won many times Comrades. You've probably heard the world's the greatest race, whatever they called it. It's a 90-something kilometer road ultra. I think she grew up on a farm, so she had that sort of tough South African farmer's life upbringing, and then she got into running later in life. But I heard her with one of her race reports from 2 Oceans talking about how you come down this very steep hill into this next very steep uphill. and how she'd sort of lost all sensation in her arms and legs. She couldn't even see straight. So I think it's a very grueling race, but very beautiful because it's the whole of the Cape Peninsula. So it'd be nice to go home and run that, because I've stood many years on the sideline to cheer people on.
Mm.
So yeah, it'd be nice to be actually running it.
So why do you run? Like, we're two average runners, as we named the podcast. And this is not our day job. We're both coaches. We're both entrepreneurs. Why do you like marathons? Why do you run marathons? Like, you could just go and run like park runs on the weekend, right? You could go just like knock out a little half marathon. What is it about the marathon why do you run marathons?
First of all, I actually think I'm better at the longer distance. The park
Okay.
run terrifies me. 5 kilometers and 10-kilometer races, just absolutely nothing worse than that. I'd rather just hold back a bit and then find my legs later on. But the shorter distances are just absolutely terrify me. I think I'm just still in that phase that I'm still quite new to marathons, and I don't feel that I've achieved what I think I can. So I would just like to see, I wonder what I could do.
Yeah.
I think also because I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
I quite like the sort of element of surprise that, oh, okay, you're quite quick for somebody your age, or I quite like that. There's something about it
Yeah.
that gives me a little bit of a kick, I think.
Well, that is kind of the amazing thing about running and these kind of events, is that you can keep doing it until you're very old if you stay.
Yeah.
If you try, and
Fit.
particularly if you maintain the fitness and maintain the strength. But you have this concept of the age group, so you can sort of compare against other. And it does seem and this is more anecdotal than pure evidence-based, it does seem that as you get into the age groups, it becomes less elite. In the sense, like, it seems that people who are really elite do their elite careers, and then they and then they're done. Like, they've run enough races.
Yeah.
Like, they may keep running, or they move on to other things. So it's almost like not the playing field levels, but yeah, it does level.
Oh, it does. You could actually probably get like your England colours as a master if you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You see that, yeah. So, and I think it is a bit easier for the women and the men. I don't think it's that equal on that front. But yeah, so I think I'm just curious. Running also feels like something, I'm quite a methodical, systematic person. I like a recipe. I like running because I've got a plan. And I know if I keep working on this plan, and if I work hard, I probably am going to get better, hopefully.
Yeah.
Even though I'm older.
And that's what's kind of
that
good.
appeals to me. Like, if I do the work, I wonder what will happen.
And that is what's kind of amazing about this sport. This is an aerobic sport, and we can improve our aerobic base, like, for years and years. What do the broaches say? Keep stacking the bricks. Just keep stacking bricks and improving the running economy. I think that's what's so alluring for average runners like us, is that I didn't hit my peak potential as a runner when my raw talent was peak in my 20s. Yeah. So I think I'm going to keep setting PRs as I age. Particularly, like you said, the longer distances, so particularly the marathon. And as soon as you get to the ultra and beyond, I think that plays even more. And that's kind of exciting that you can, like you said, you can keep working and improving towards something. And so I actually think, I don't see, look, we'll see what happens because I know you're going to break 3. I know it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen.
Hopefully one day.
It will happen. But also when it happens, I think it's like, I don't see you just like, it's the be and end all. Like, I'll be happy when I see you loving training. Like, you love the training. Like, particularly when you're like doing the quality training. And I think you'll just be like,
it's hard though, imagine.
You say it, but like you said when just before we start press record today, that you're deep. This is deep in marathon training right now. A lot of quality, a lot of miles. You're doing all the extra bits of strength or the occasional doubles where it's you're doing all the bits, like adding it all up. But I just know that when you get that, it's just gonna be like, okay, that's just another big brick. And where do we build now? Now what could be the next level of potential?
Yeah. And that's where, like, when I hear you talking about all these different, I think, okay, well, maybe, especially hearing you coming back, maybe I need to trial a bit of trails. What I did think was maybe I need to do an Ironman triathlon, but the swimming just gets me down. So
yeah,
I have to think about that.
There is a seriousness about triathletes that sort of there's I like data and I like to optimize, and I probably think too much about running shoes, but it's like there's something, but but there is still some messiness and some like, the triathlete's going to full like Star Trek Spock territory in my mind with
Yeah,
this.
no, I
So,
think it might be a step too far. I think, and if I raise it at home, I think the relationship might end.
well,
Might just have to stick to
I
running.
think the real trick that I've seen with people, including myself, for trails and adventures is to go and support someone and either pace
Yeah,
them or crew them.
I think that could
So
be
when
really fun.
Yeah, and doing the recce's, like, we'll definitely plan some recce's
Yeah,
to
that would be cool. I'm
Snowdonia.
looking forward to
You can
that.
come down to Wales, to the Brecon Beacons.
I'm
We'll do
very
a
good
lot
with a
of
map. That's what I just want to say. I'm very good with a
oh,
map.
game
Love
on.
a map. Yeah,
Love
very
a
good
good
at that.
map. I love that. Cool. So that's that's some of the things like why you enjoy running and why this marathon distance and wanting to
Yeah,
keep chipping away and seeing what your full potential could be.
yeah. No, I'm excited to see, and I feel good about London because I have just come back from these 2 stress fractures. I've got nothing to prove really because everyone knows that I've been injured. I know I've been injured. If I can just run a good race, I'll be happy. If it
Yeah.
happens to start with a 2 something, cool. So, and funnily enough, my coach, who was an Olympic triathlete, South African,
Okay.
and she's got 2 young kids, so she's kind of not anywhere near as fit as she used to be, but she's has run in the past many times, very fast marathon times, but she's getting back to fitness. She's coming over from South Africa to run London, and she's just about in the same shape as me. So she's thinking that she might just go for it and maybe we'll run together. So that might be really cool. We've never met in person. Maybe we talk about this on one of the other podcasts, but there's
Yeah.
a chance we're going to run it together, which could be very cool. So we'll see.
Well, that is so exciting. I was going to ask you as well. We can maybe save this for later, which is like, look, we can become slaves to the watch and the pace.
Yeah.
And there's nothing
Yeah.
right. I think I had quite a few friends who ran Berlin as well. And everyone, and you included, bar
Died.
one, had the same pattern. They went out at the pace that they wanted to go out at. And some of them were trying to go like run 2:30 or 2:40. Like
terrible.
these were fast guys. But there was one guy who clearly adjusted, and he actually, I think he ran. He's a fast guy.
Not
I think
Harry
he ran.
Styles. Harry
No,
Styles.
it wasn't
who
Harry
ran
Styles.
the
No,
long
Harry
sleeve
Styles
top.
nailed it. Harry
Yeah,
Styles.
he
No,
did.
I wish I knew exactly.
In a
My
black
wife would be
long sleeve
thrilled.
sweatshirt.
I know that made no sense to me that he was like overheat. It must have been overheated. Anyway, that was like very bizarre. No, it was a local guy here, and I think he ran 250 something. I don't even
Okay.
think it was a PR, but he actually
Wow.
paced and actually didn't blow up. He faded touch, but not a ton. And I must be curious. It's like, if you're not like, could you? I mean, I don't know if I could, but could you pace it without watch? Could you like just not look at your watch and just run on
No.
feel?
I think I probably will start far too fast.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the
Yeah. So
reason I
you would
need
go
the
the
watch
other
is to
way
slow
on that
down.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm
But if you could
always
run,
pumping out a few kilometers at the beginning of any race where I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, okay, now you have to calm down. So yeah.
well, I ran a half marathon in January, which I really built towards. I never run things that short and fast. And I sort of did an open assessment where my fitness was. And I ran a 10K a couple of months before. I basically had enough stuff to like know. And I was like, I think sub 135 is possible. But a few people were like, oh, you can get you get 130. And then I was like, no, if I go with that one, I would blow. But they had a 135 pace group.
Oh, nice.
And it was such a wonderful race that I happened to know the guy who was a good friend of mine who was pacing the 135. And he was one, oh, you could probably do the 130 group. And in the end, I was like, I'm just going to do the 135. And it was wonderful. I basically didn't look at my watch for the whole 13 miles.
That's so nice.
It was so nice because there was probably about a pack of 10 of us and we were like locked in. And at mile 9, I was like, do I feel like I could really push on? And I was like, this is hard. Like it was definitely hard pace, but I was like, nope, this is not the time yet. So like kept waiting. And then we got to just shy of 12, mile 12. And it was like, okay, now I feel like I can smell the barn. I pushed on, probably snagged an extra 13 seconds over that last mile, just like pushed in slightly ahead. And it was like the first time I had not blown up in a race like that, a road race. The first time I'd ever run, but it was quite nice. Like I know why these paces.
But you've got to know that you've got to trust the pacer because let me tell you this story. I ran a 10K last year. I was going to just try and go under sub 40. I've never done a 10K before. I should have been fit enough to do it. I find there's 2 paces for the sub 40 minutes, right? So I tag onto the one and we start a little bit fast. But then I start noticing on my watch, like 1 or 2 of the splits, we seem to be dropping off. So I just went to the other pacer. I don't know why. I just had this feeling. Let me go with the other guy. Went to the other guy. I then saw, because there was a bit of a few out and backs, that the original guy that I was tagged to was just slowing down, and apparently ended up dropping out. So anybody who was stuck with him, he obviously was injured, poor guy.
Oh.
So imagine I'd stayed with him, it would have been disaster. So anyway, I stayed with
Death.
this other guy. And then we were kind of back on track. And then I think we were at about 7 or 8 kilometers. And I'd stopped looking at my watch because I felt, okay, I think I'm going to make it. And then we had one that I heard in the kilometers I allow the pace thing to say in my ear. It's instead of doing like 3:55 or 3:58, because I do minutes per K, it said 4:3. And then, or 4:5. And I was like, oh, this guy is bloody slowed down just as the race is getting to the worst part of it. And I was starting to get like feeling quite tired. And I often have problems with nausea. So I was starting to get the nausea. And basically then he just had to make up the time. So he started legging it with the last 2 kilometers to go. And I just couldn't keep up. So then I was basically on my own, coming past Big Ben, doing my best, like eyes pretty much more or less closed just to catch up. But I think I was like 2 seconds out, and the guy was like 5 meters ahead of me. So he only just squeezed in under the.
Wow.
So it was a disaster pacing experience. I was like, never again. But I think in the majors, those guys are pretty good. I mean, like most races, the guys should know what they're doing. But for whatever reason, this was an absolute disaster.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's a little bit about sort of why us non-professional runners like to do something in life.
To do it, yeah, and what we're working towards.
So I'm curious now. Let's go back to now that we sort of set that for today. I want to go back to the movies, because I think I want to hear what was it? Tell me what you saw, what inspired you, or what you took away.
It's probably a bit of a heavy topic, but I don't know if you've seen on Netflix, there's a movie out called I Swear.
I do not have.
And it created a bit of a ruckus at the BAFTAs. It's basically a true story about a man with Tourette's who.
Yes,
Scottish
I did
guy.
hear about this. I heard about this.
Yeah,
yes.
And it won loads of BAFTAs. But I watched this movie on Netflix actually on Saturday night when I was home alone, and then I finished it off last night. But it just was such a. I guess he must be our sort of age or a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have been growing up probably in the 70s, maybe more like than the 80s, in Scotland, but quite, I don't want to say rural, but small town. So on the sort of borders area. So nobody there knew what Tourette's was. And just seeing what he went through, just because of a complete lack of education and the way his family treated him, the way he was treated at school. He was actually a very talented footballer, but he kept being, in the days of corporal punishment, hit on his hands because he kept swearing and doing things that was making the teachers angry and other kids. So he was being beat, hit on his hands every day, and then going off to football where he was a goalie, and then the talent scouts would come to watch him, but his hands underneath his gloves were completely lacerated, and so he couldn't get into football. His dad was really angry, but just how terrible his life, how badly impacted he was. But what it really struck me was, because we're talking about running here and it's hard, and I sort of this week I had a track session that I really dragged my heels to even get there. When I got there, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm going to do one interval, and I kind of ended up doing the whole thing. And I thought, I'm pretty tough. I get the physical stuff done. But then you watch a movie like that and you actually think, okay, it's actually nothing compared to how tough some people's lives are, and actually how far just in, say, maybe 20, 30 years, the world has come, that now this guy is a sort of a champion for Tourette's. So he goes around educating. So he would get arrested the whole time because no one knew what it was. They thought that he was just lashing out, and he was always getting into trouble. And anyway, I found it quite an inspiring movie, but also just that realization, wow, some people have just had the most start to life, and they still get up and they keep going. And that's really something to admire. And this guy, I think he has an MBE or an OBE or something like that.
I've got goosebumps right now hearing you tell the story. I've got goosebumps.
Yeah. I'm not very emotional, but I found myself sort of crying. I was like, what's this? I was like, oh, I'm crying. So, yeah, it was really it was just so shocking to see, because of a lack of education, how hard this guy's life was. And there was nothing that he could do about it. Wow. So that sort of made me haul my ass. Like, I think I can do this 1 kilometer repeat in the wind.
It
Boo!
seems so insignificant at that point.
I know, yeah. So it's a bit of a heavy subject, but I was really quite like, okay, wow, some people have been through a lot.
Well, it's actually, this is really fascinating to me because this really connects, and you had no idea because we didn't really know what we were going to talk quite
No.
about this, with sort of takeaway from the movie that I saw.
Okay.
I watched Project Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil it all for you because I think you should go watch it, or people if they want to listen. But the premise. So it's by the guy Andy Weir who wrote The Martian, as we sort of said, and it has very similar. There's a guy wakes up in space, right, and he's the only one left alive on the spaceship. And as it all, you'll start to learn their spaceship was on a mission to do something to try and save the human race. And so there's an element of the movie which is about a purpose greater than yourself, right? And this idea of like when something becomes existential and how you either work together or how you sort of stepping up to a responsibility or to a wanting to go and do something to have a big impact. But for me, the thing that really resonated was that like at so many moments it seemed insurmountable, the problem, and seemed overwhelming, the existential threat. And it was one of those ones where he just did the next thing, like solved the most immediate problem.
Yeah.
And almost not thinking about the next one and just solve that problem. And that's what made me, and obviously it was the same author, but The Martian, in that movie, The Martian, like finds himself stuck on Mars. And so it's like one thing, it's like, well, I don't even think about, he's not even thinking about getting home to Earth. It's like, okay, how much air do I have? Like, have food. Like, how can I have food? And so if you remember, and I'm going to spoil The Martian because people have had plenty of time to watch that one. But a big part of it is like, hey, he needs to grow food. And he ends up figuring out how to like grow potatoes in space in his space capsule and whatever. But it was like, there's the element of the resourcefulness of the individual, which itself, and it's like, wow, I don't think I could have figured out how to grow potatoes in space. And even this one here in Project Hail Mary, there's like doing some calculations and figuring out how to communicate something or whatever it might be. But it's just like, I find myself constantly getting stuck in like, what's the big thing? And I got to solve the thing. And I think that's a lesson I'm taking from the training. The thing is like, right now, I'm not thinking about running 100 miles potentially in July. What I'm just thinking about is like, what do I need to do to run 100 miles? Like, I need to be fit. I need to be running consistently. I need to be doing vert. I know I need to be working on strength. And so like right now it's just like, do I get 2 strength sessions in a week? Do I get a longer run in? And then like this week, okay, how am I getting some extra like vert, doing some hill repeats or doing some uphill treadmill? And it's like, that's the only thing I need to worry about is like this 1 week of training or this next workout, like you said, like, and then it's like the next rep, right? What's the thing? And so that's what really, and Alice, like this movie, you said like, I was in the movie theater on my own. I think it was opening weekend, IMAX. Like there were people all over. It was a pretty full movie theater. I was bawling my eyes out, tears.
Really?
Like there were some pretty emotional moments in there. I was like, it was like sort of happiness and like, it was inspiring to me, just in the same way this movie, I think, I swear is what he's called it, inspired you, but in his own way. So yeah, I came away from that in that similar thing. It's like, what am I fucking complaining about? What am I worried about? All this stuff is like pointless. It's like, what do I got to do? Why do I need to do it? Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually that, as you're talking, I'm thinking I needed to hear that because I'm not going to it now, but I'm going through a bit of a, what am I going to do next? Professionally, career, do I need to pivot a bit? We've all got AI coming in. How things going to look different? Are there opportunities out there for me? And you can really, well, I don't know about you, but for me, when you're going through all of that, you can also get a lot of nothing done because you just, what's about this? What about that? It's problem. And actually probably what you need to do is just start doing something rather than just trying to, see such a huge problem and say, I can't. So yeah, so that's, I guess it's difficult though, isn't it? To find that one thing to focus on and just do that.
It is. But I think that what I think is a sort of approach that I like, and I obviously didn't invent any of this shit, is that sometimes some areas it feels like bigger blockers.
Yeah.
Like there's more resistance and more. And so that's where I think having the running and a project to work towards.
Yeah.
Is like a mini microcosm. We get to practice it. You and I a couple of years ago did 75 hard.
Yeah.
I happen to be doing it again
You're
right
doing it
now.
again, yeah?
I'm doing it again
Yeah.
right now with Adam and a handful of other folks. We've got a little group chat going. A bunch of us all started the same day this time, which is kind of cool.
Okay, cool.
But it's just the one great thing about that program is there are 5 things you need to do each day.
You just do them.
And you just got to do them, and the satisfaction that comes from doing them, and then the knockover. And I sort of said, like, this is like, we're on episode 2 of this podcast. We had a false start podcast last summer,
Yeah,
and
we
we
did.
recorded a couple of
Yeah.
episodes, and we kind of like, then life got in the way, and we never posted a single one of them. And then it's really interesting to me this time round, we just did it, and we didn't overthink it. And we published the first episode. Initially we thought maybe we'll record a few, and then we're like, we'll just publish it and going, and it's out and it's going. And I think that's where we just then keep applying it to the work thing. I think the AI thing is pretty,
right.
It's like, there are people who, I read a wonderful thing, and it was about beholding the space right now that's on the line between the people on one side who are like, AI is the best thing in the world. It's going to change everything. It's the Sam Altman, like, I don't know if he's eating his own supply, taking his own supply, high in his own supply, whatever. It's just so extreme. And then on the other end, they're like, AI is the worst thing ever. It's a cancer on society and humans and consciousness. Like, and it's like, neither of those is right. But being able to straddle in the middle of like, hey, this thing is here. It's like, going anywhere. Yes, it's causing a lot of problems. Yes, the environmental consequences and climate change are a big thing to consider. Yes, it has global political, implications given what's happening in the world. But at the same time, it's like, this is happening. People are going to use it. And how do we just sort of, like you said, like, approach it one step at a time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so thanks for sharing that, because that's a good little reminder to me to take that kind of approach into my day.
Yeah. I think we just do the next little thing. The next piece.
Now tell me, we said we were going to put aside a little bit of time for listeners' questions. Do you have any?
I believe you have a listener question.
I do.
Let's do it.
Which was delivered to me just before the podcast. I haven't had time to think about it, because it is actually a question
even better.
for me.
Let's do it.
And the question is from Dale, my partner, who also runs. And it surprised me, the question. He sent it to me on WhatsApp. I was quickly walking the dog. He basically, where is it? Let me see here. So basically he says, hi, Alice, I'm wondering how it makes you feel when we meet people and they learn that we both run, and they automatically assume that I, Dale, am much faster than you, that I'm the better runner. So, and it's interesting that he asked me that, because it is what happens all the time, but we've never really discussed it. So it's just curious to me that that's what was in his head.
This question. So does this happen to you? Does this, you've experienced this because you're both runners and
all the time, all the time. It's but it's almost because it happens all the time. And it's one of those things that quite often these sorts of things as a woman do happen. Back in the day when I was working in finance, this is a while ago, if you with a guy and you're going to see a client, often the client assumes that the guy is the more senior one, that kind of thing. So if there's things like that, you're kind of quite used to it. In medicine, it was quite a lot like that. People wonder if you're the nurse or the doctor, and which is fine.
Yes, because to our listeners know you're a doctor. That was what your first,
for quite a long time. Exactly.
Yeah.
So for just over 10 years before I went into finance. So it's kind of like, I felt like a bit weird with him asking, because I'm like, yeah, but that's what I'm used to. But I do find it quite amusing on the running. Now, he is a much more experienced runner than me. He's done loads, 30 plus marathons. He's done loads of ultras, trail runs, etc. So he's a little bit older than me, but not by a lot, but he's much more experienced, but I am faster than him. Only thing he's fast on is a hill sprint.
Yeah.
That's done in a minute, and he'll just hold on. And if it's anything longer than a minute, then I can sort of take him on it.
But that's
So we get that a lot, and I guess because I'm a little bit competitive, I don't ever say anything. He's usually pretty good and say, no, she's much faster than me, or I just think to myself, wait till you see.
Yeah.
So it gives me a sort of a cheeky little
I like that.
because see what happens a lot in running when certainly here in the UK, I find it a lot. I try not to let it irritate me, is that when you're out running, if you come past men, sometimes they don't like it and they must try to keep up with you. And you feel irritated because you're at your pace.
Yeah.
And you're like, listen, dude, I'm just on my easy pace. Like, I don't really want to be in the sprinting game here. If you want to, so,
Yeah.
or it happens a bit on track, you come past a guy and then suddenly he's going faster because you're coming past him and you're like, listen, dude, I'm in the middle of this 800 meter, like I'm ending now or else, so it just, that kind of a thing, it happens quite often. So I think I just feel a little bit of a sort of an inside chuckle to myself when they all automatically assume. Actually, because I've mentioned I've got my dog, so I'm walking my dog 2 days ago and there's a guy with his dog. The dog's name is Ziggy. Anyway, Ziggy Stardust. I always think about that. He introduced me to the person he was walking Ziggy, his dog, with. And he said, Alice's husband's an excellent marathon runner. And I just went, oh, yes, he is.
Yes, he is. And if he only you knew that I kick his ass in the marathon.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Well, I think there's so many things to
funny.
react on that one. It's one of those sad reflections of society that isn't instinctive and that's still the case even today, even where we think we are in the world. I also think that it's like, I think there's that's also something about our sport that I love so much is that most of the women I run with are faster than me. Like, they're actually the better runners. My friend, you might have heard me talking about my friend Courtney, who's a total badass. And, she had Julia and I. Julia's also a badass. Both of them can drop my ass at pretty much any distance from short to long. And Julia and I paced Courtney at Javelina to a top 10 finish. And she dropped me in the last 10 miles. I mean, the last 5 miles. Courtney just took off. And I was so happy that she was running that well 95 miles into a race. I think it's kind of cool. That's why I think the ultra distances are so appealing to me as well, because it equalizes.
It does. Look at what
and the strength, women do perform a lot better, often a lot grittier, DNF less. You have these inspiring, particularly in the UK, the Jasmine Paris of the world, who, she won the spine race outright, beating all the men. She obviously was the first female finisher of the Barkley. And I've listened to a lot of people criticize Laz. Laz famously said, Laz, who's the founder of the Barkley, is a very provocative individual. And he said, and he got misquoted, obviously, took out of context, that a woman couldn't finish the Barkley. And his argument is that the men can only just finish, and at a population level, women are 8% slower, right?
Yeah.
So, but he said it also, he was saying it as a cheeky, because he knew there would be the Jasmines out there who'd be like, I'll show you.
Yeah, exactly.
And they did.
Yeah.
So I think it's a kind of a really interesting one. And then it's like the reflection of competition just in general. I know, I've never been fast enough that the moment I get overtaken by anyone, I try to catch back up with them. For years, I would be like, I get overtaken by someone and I'd be like, they must be I'm running so much longer than them. So
they're in the middle of an interval or something. And they've only just started.
They're starting. I'm like 25 Ks into my long run. And now I'm just like, today, I know I'm trying to run a Z1. I'm not even running Z2s today. I'm trying to run Z1 recovery. I don't care all the people who are passing me. So I think it's, but that is interesting. But I think the one thing I want to take away mostly from you is that there's an element of just being able to smile and be like, if only you knew. And also, just you wait, just you watch. But that's kind of, I like that question. Thank you, Dale, for that question today.
It was, I was surprised that was the question, but it's interesting that he was even thinking about it. So,
and so if anyone's listening to us and has their own experience of being sort of judged on their pace based on some stereotype or gender stereotype or some
maybe
other kind of
some people
looks or age or then let us know. Send in a little listener note, but also we welcome any more listener questions. And we'll make sure to answer one or two each week.
Brilliant.
Anything else you want to share today, Alice?
No, I think that's good for me. Hoping that I think that your story from the movie that you shared is going to bring my life score up a little bit this week.
Ooh, I like that.
Because it was a 5 out of 10. Let's see if I can get towards a 7 next week.
I like that.
Not that
We'll
it needs
check.
to be a competition, but to check in on
No,
myself.
exactly. But it's a useful barometer. And I think that's what we want to show in this anyways, is like, it's not always 8s and 9s out of 10s.
Definitely not.
That's life.
Definitely not.
But I it's funny, one of my favorite clips of Kobe Bryant, and and maybe we can end on this one. He says, someone asks him about doubt and self-doubt, and he says, and Kobe goes something like, doubt is pointless. It's like, and he's like, if you win, it's great. You got to get up the next day and do the thing all over again. If you lose, sucks. You got to get up the next day and do the same thing over again. So like, wasting time on doubt is just doesn't make any sense. It's a complete waste of time. And I think that's with so many of the things. It's like, either way, we got to keep doing what we're doing next day, next week. So, and I try to internalize that a lot about, like, if I'm worrying or anticipating or having anxiety or doubt, or it's just like, well, what is it actually going to change, win or lose in this thing? Still going to do the same thing the next day.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I'm going to take that one with me. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks. That's the thank you for Kobe Bryant. R.I.P. So.
Okay, cool. Nice to see you.
All right.
See you next
Great
week.
to see you, Alice. See you next week.